Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Keep chanting. Never stop. You like chanting, don't you? You always chant?
I'm sure I did.
Good. Hare Krishna. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari.
Hare
Sydney calendar, is that correct? And it is not the Sun Panchami though, is it? Actually, the Sun Panchami. We dressed today was so beautifully today in yellow and green. It's like a Sun Panchami outfit. Spring. We're in Australia, upside down. Spring is the other way around. I see that we're meant to talk a little this afternoon on it, according to the notice. Let's see. So today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 1, text number 5. Is that correct? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 The first step in God realization. It's a wonderful one of those. Every section, every verse of Bhagavatam is wonderful. This is a section which is especially wonderful. Please repeat. Tasmat Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Krititavyaha Cha Smartavyaha Cha Ichata Abhayam Tasmad Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishvaro Hari Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha Smartavyasche Chatavayam Tasmad Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishvaro Hari Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha Smartavyasche Chatavayam Tasmad Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishvaro Harihi Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha Smartavyasche Chatavayam
Tasmad Bharata Sarvatma.
One who desires to be free from all miseries must hear about, glorify, and also remember the personality of Godhead, who is the Super Soul, the Controller, and the Savior from all miseries. Report. In the previous verse, Sri Shukadeva Goswami has described how the foolish, materially attached men are wasting their valuable time in the improvement of the material conditions of life by sleeping, indulging in sex life, developing economic conditions, and maintaining a band of relatives who are to be vanquished in the air of oblivion. One of those profound, incredible statements of Prabhupada. You know, that you get these statements that just capture it fully like this. Read it again. A band, maintaining a band of relatives who are to be vanquished in the air of oblivion. Very strong statement. Huh? Being engaged in all these materialistic activities, the living soul, entangles himself in the cycle of the law of fruitive actions. We think it's nice. Huh? This entails the chain of birth and death in the 8,400,000 species of life. The aquatics, the vegetables, the reptiles, the birds, the beasts, the uncivilized man, and then again the human form, which is a chance for getting out of the cycle of fruitive action. This entails chain going through all these various species of life. A vegetable. They don't have think maybe. And at one time, maybe the vegetable. Potato. A broccoli, a Brussels sprout. Incredible. Therefore, if one desires freedom from this vicious circle, then one must cease to act as a karmi or enjoyer of the results of one's own work, good or bad. You could take any sentence practically of this purport. It's like a whole program in itself, isn't it? Every sentence. It's this section of Srimad Bhagavatam, first chapter, second canto. It's just packed with such explosive statements. One should not do anything, either good or bad, on his own account. This is for us, not just for them out there. One should not do anything, either good or bad, on his own account, but must execute everything on behalf of the Supreme Lord, the ultimate proprietor of everything that be. Basic principle of our movement is to cultivate, awaken, it's already there, just to awaken this natural flow of everything we think, do, etc. for the pleasure of Krishna. It's the difference between material and spiritual. In the material world, everyone is at Mandya, busily trying to satisfy our own condition, our own minds and senses, busily trying to make the dream better. As we were discussing or hearing yesterday, from the spiritual platform, everything in this world, good or bad, is a dream. It's not a reality, it's just a temporary phase of experience. But we become so captivated by it, and spend most of our energy just trying to improve it with their own definition of good and bad. We have one definition, someone else has a different one, and we fight and quarrel, make friends and enemies. All part of the dream. But without this verse particularly is giving us how to wake up from this dreamlike state. This process of doing work is recommended in the Bhagavad Gita 9:27. Can anyone remind us what that verse is? 9:27. I know that Google Guru can tell us quite quickly. But does anyone know, aside from consulting Google Guru? Google Dasi is not here today. Young girls, he's very expert. Immediately getting the answer. Is not yat karoshi dashnasi? Yat yavosi dasi. That gushvamadakanam. It's whatever we do, whatever we offer, whatever we give away, whatever sacrifice, whatever we may do in our lives, okay, we've been given that by Krishna. Maybe reciprocation according to our desire, a separate desire, so to speak, and the karma therein. But nonetheless, it's provided by Krishna. His body, the mind, the inspiration, the remembrance, everything given us by Krishna. It's not exactly good or bad, it's what we do with it. How we utilize it. No matter what it is. How we utilize it in relation with Krishna or for some other reason. So Krishna's, throughout the Bhagavad Gita, we see this thread, practical statements. Yes, we have our ultimate goal, to always think of Krishna, but how to honestly come to that. Taking what Krishna has given us and maybe learning or becoming inspired to utilize that in a way which frees us. And that will be discussed a little bit more here. How to get free from this entanglement of falsely identifying himself and being captivated by and dragged around the universe from life to life. Whether we're a vegetable or a reptile or an aquatic or a tree, whatever, in this world, ignorant of our real nature. This brought also in the Bhagavad Gita, wherein instruction is given for working on the Lord's account, not our own account. It's like in this material world, Prabhupada often gives the example. A soldier in the battlefield, he's not working on his own account. He's working on account of the king or the government. He's not held, at least not by his own government, responsible that he's killing people or whatever. He gets praised. This is not on his own account. It's on our own account we have responsible. We have to be responsible for the result. So we take shelter, the instruction of Krishna. Therefore, one should first of all hear about the Lord. Otherwise, blind faith. That's some sentiment. Maybe irresponsible. Oh, I take no responsibility. God takes it all. Jesus takes it. I could really down say, Jesus takes it. No, we have to hear about the Lord. Understand, what is that? Who is that person? When one has perfectly and scrutinizingly heard, one must glorify his acts and deeds, and thus it will become possible to remember constantly the transcendental nature of the Lord. See in the Bhagavad Gita, because one knows this one, this transcendental nature of the Lord also becomes free from the bondage of reaction in this world. Because Krishna frees us. We can't free ourselves. A tied up man can't release himself very easily. Very hard. We may desire. We have to have the desire. Desire is awoken in this way. Maybe we're getting a little bit of a desire to hear about Krishna, I don't know. The mind, at least. We're very busy remembering so many other things. But here to remember Krishna. When one has perfectly and scrutinizingly heard, one must glorify his acts and deeds. We may say we're not perfect or scrutinizingly sufficient. But whatever we have heard scrutinized, we've understood a little bit. Sure. Talk about it. I'm sure it's the same here in Bhagavad Shrine, probably joined here in Australia. But I remember when I first came to the temple in London, there's some devotees there who I never forget, and how they shared whatever they had. In the kitchen, we're chopping vegetables. The devotee there, Narahari, he lives in Australia, you know him well. In the kitchen, he was cooking them. Oh, hey Jeff, have you read the story in the Krishna book? He's a Welsh accent. Krishna, when he killed the Agasura demon. He was just talking about that, and it was an amazing experience. And Kishore, the first time I saw him, I said, wow, Krishna's so beautiful. We've just read a description in the Krishna book about Krishna. It was like, we all sat there listening. So childlike, you could say, but this is so captivating. Captivates our attention. We may have complicated with so many things, but this is such a simple formula. Simple formula, simple living, high thinking. Make life simple. Simple is a very interesting term. It may not be the same for everyone. But acting according to the nature or what we've been given by Krishna. Playing our part, that's Prabhupada, not trying to imitate. Playing our part. And then it can become simple, harmonious. If we put Krishna in the center, it doesn't matter, we all have different parts to play with. Krishna in the center, everything becomes harmonious, like in a beautiful Philharmonic orchestra. Everyone's playing a different instrument, but the sound is very harmonious, very united. With Krishna in the center. Seeing how we're related to Krishna, even here and now, with this mind and body, have to relate that to Krishna. There's one of the primary secret here, coming together
hearing and chanting. Hearing about and glorifying the Lord are identical with the transcendental nature of the movement. And by so doing, one will always be in the association of the Lord wherever we are. Even if we're in the subway, we're in the office, we're in the prison, wherever, in the hospital, in the home, in the temple, everywhere. If we can imbibe this principle, seeing things in relationship with Krishna, wherever we are, we will feel the association of the Lord in various ways. Because nothing is happening, as a previous part of the purport, how Krishna is the proprietor of everything. Not just the temple, everything. Prabhupada would teach us that too on occasions. He would visually demonstrate it by going into people's gardens and turning off taps. Not waste, no one should waste. Keep clean, visible demonstration. Everything is Krishna's property. The toilet, everything should be for Krishna. Remembering this is Krishna's. Behaving, acting, learning how to do things with Krishna in the center. Education, very simple. Then wherever we are, we feel the association of Krishna. Even in the office, many times the boys ask, how can I remember Krishna in the office? Well, everything about the office is Krishna's energy, provided by Krishna. The intelligence to do what the ability is given by Krishna. The instruments of enacting our desires, etc. That's all provided for by Krishna. Everyone's under the influence of the modes of nature, which is Krishna's energy, and ultimately guided by Krishna in the heart. Krishna everywhere. The fruits of the work are rewarded by Krishna, directly or indirectly. Everything is coming from Krishna. Everything. No matter what it is, even if a person seems to be grossly in the mode of ignorance, that's because they're associated with Krishna's energy. It's a Tamagun. Everything. And they're controlled by that Tamagun completely. And then the mode of passion comes in and influences them to act in this way and that. Everything see Krishna in relation to everything. Whatever it may be, even it's very not so easy. Sometimes we get chastised or criticized, or someone says something that upsets us. For a devotee, Krishna's hand is working to help release us. To help release us from seeing things separate from Him. To purify us of this tendency to see ourselves as the center. To remember that there must be a reason for this. Krishna has a reason. To help release me from this dream that I'm in. This attachment. The whole process of devotional service is a waking up process. Wake up. And this is the main thrust of that wake up, together with engagements. We can't spend all our time just chanting. Maybe we can. Generally not. So many engagements are there to engage our mind and active senses, which connect us with Krishna. That's why we have spiritual guides in our lives. Not so much necessary to tell us what to do, but how to do that in relationship with Krishna. Perhaps in this day and age it's often confusing what to do. It wasn't confusing so much in previous generations. Pretty simple what to do for most people who's kind of naturally inclined to an activity, and it wasn't so complicated. But whatever it is we're doing, we've chosen or forced, or whatever it is, how to do that in relationship with Krishna. Spiritual guidance. How that can be connected with Krishna. And to provide environmental situations like this beautiful temple, this jewel in Sydney. But what makes it shine is when there is hearing and chanting, remembrance of Krishna here. Otherwise, it's not necessarily so effulgent. It becomes another place to try to manage, another place to try to
get what, my conditional driving desires want, etc. But no, this is a place where we can awaken our natural, our dormant attraction for Krishna. It's an oasis, as we were hearing yesterday, in the desert, spiritual desert. The temple is particularly, Srila Prabhupada, Nectar and Instruction describe the temples as places where people can come and hear how they can connect with Krishna, no matter who they are. Connecting with Krishna is not just some formal thing. It's actually a reality. It's immediately when one sees the deity, the person may not know, what is this? The thought comes, oh, that's very beautiful. If anyone comes here today, they may say, wow, they've got such beautiful dresses. Who are they? What is it? I saw so many times in New Zealand when we were there, old age pensioners would come in busloads on a mystery tour, and they would turn up at the temple in Auckland. Much to their surprise, some of them were a bit shocked, but many of them were open-minded, mostly from Christian backgrounds. And they would come in, the last thing on our list of things to watch or do or hear was the deities, because for many people it was a bit of a shock. And some of them didn't go for it. But many of them took that. They loved the prasadam. They were the old people, 80 years old, stuffing down halava and cream. I don't know if they survived after that or not. They couldn't resist it, It was so delicious. Anyway, better go out on halava and cream. Good way to go. And then they would come, if they could walk after that. We would then take them into the temple and open the curtains. That was the grand finale. And so many of these old people were spellbound. They'd never seen anything like it. What is it? What is this? Oh, they're so beautiful. They would say things, many of them like this. Can I take a picture? Like that. They were fascinated. Attraction had been awoken to Krishna. They didn't know. This is the temple. To awaken that attraction. A devotee is supposed to be a walking temple. The more we're remembering Krishna, the more we're hearing and chanting and remembering Krishna, the more devotees, literally, Krishna manifests through them. Just like the temple, the more hearing and chanting and beautiful daily worship and the relationships between devotees, it attracts people towards Krishna. That should be our home like that, everything. That's our one golden opportunity, although we're not very mature in so many ways, not very learned, but take heart. Even Srila Prabhupada, of course, for us, we could say, but he was feeling like that. I have no devotion, I have no knowledge, nothing. I just have strong faith in the holy name of Krishna. As we know more about Srila Prabhupada and his absolute love for Krishna. Nonetheless, even if we don't have those, you could say, qualification, if you wish. If we're simply attached to trying to assist Srila Prabhupada, the members of our disciplic succession, in disseminating this transcendental mercy to others, by our actions, by sharing, being honest according to our level of maturity and sharing that with others. It's a wonderful opportunity for all of us to, we say preach, but preaching is, words are one thing, but our behavior is the real thing, which we all know if we've had children, how children learn more by what they see and experience around them by what we say to them. That's what really solidifies what we hear. So the temple is meant to be like that. We may not be good at engineering or law or this thing or that thing. But as Prabhupada, in the early years when he was in Montreal, he was discussing with, I think it was Pradumna, a few devotees were there, about expert. What is expert? And Prabhupada said, expert is like this. The calf, the baby calf, immediately knows to drink the milk of the mother. And I watch it almost daily in Vrindavan, stay in the Goshaw. And I watch the babies being born, literally sometimes, the calves. And within hours, literally sometimes 1 or 2 hours, they're on their feet and they're going for the mother's udder. Father said, this is expert. He said, a florist, if you know how to make garlands, that's expert. If you don't know how to do it, which you may learn, don't try to do it. The expert means finding out our position and playing it for Krishna. That is expert. Very simple. We sometimes make it a little complicated because of the false ego. We want to imitate. Maybe we've got some, egotistical desires there. And we see that others are getting recognized and this and that and whatever. I like to be that. That's not the mood of a devotee who understands things, so to speak. And certainly it shouldn't be the mood for leaders. Otherwise everyone else will follow such a mood. This mood which Prabhupada has of service to all. Serve them, how to serve. As you do if you have children, you don't treat them like adults, you treat them as they are and encourage them as they are. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Bhagavad. The child gives us a piece of chocolate. Oh, so kind, so wonderful. We gave the chocolate in the first place. That's what's going on in this world. Krishna has given us everything. Everything. It's not that I'm doing something for Krishna. Not everything like that. So we'll be given a chance to realize, that is my constitutional position, to please Krishna. I'm doing something for Krishna. So that mood is so, it can be contagious. Contagious. Like material consciousness is contagious, like the raging fires. It's very hard to extinguish those raging fires in Australia. By the grace of the Lord, rain may come, or it just runs out of the wood or something, but temporary. But the principle is we cannot extinguish that blazing forest fire. It's only by the mercy of the spiritual masters that fire can be extinguished. And what is that mercy? The Goswamis, Srinivasacharya describes how they're showering on the world songs about Govinda. This is their mercy. They're showering down that mercy of, yes, practical instructions, but also alongside hearing and chanting and glorifying the Lord, particularly in this age. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has revealed to the world a very confidential, the Bhagavad Gita talks about the most confidential knowledge. It's not just some words theoretically learned. It's actually much more than that. That confidentiality of the Bhagavad Gita opens the door to prema, or love of God, and Lord Chaitanya has opened the door to that confidentiality. And they bring this Sankirtan movement. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has appeared in this world for two purposes. To experience Krishna Prema himself, the ecstasy that his pure devotees experience in relationship with him. He wanted to experience it along with the congregational chanting of the holy names. And it's so nice. And we see people without even knowledge, without any practice in taking the chanting, congregational chanting of the holy names. And really, Jiva Goswami says that even, this is the prime activity, even persons who are fallen, we're all fallen in one sense, but engage in sinful activities can experience bliss in congregational chanting of the holy name. It may not be, it may be like a sample or spray, and away they go into another association, but that will never be lost. It is so merciful. Lord Chaitanya has opened the gate, and that spray, love of God, is spraying all over the world. And then the Kaviraj goes on to describe Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, along with his associates, are giving this Krishna Prema through congregational chanting to even the most fallen, untouchables of this world. Everybody is not so complicated. And they have their reservations, and how we do it, that's another thing. The principle is to share with mercy. And then Karavesh goes on to say, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is woven a wreath, like a garland. What is that garland? That garland, like a flower. Garland has many flowers. Usually if there are different colors, properly, aesthetically and compatibly matched, the garland looks very, very beautiful. So Lord Chaitanya has woven a wreath, a garland of the holy name, congregational chanting, and Krishna Prema, with which he has garlanded the entire material world. You just have to take a sniff of that garland. Take a sniff of it. And we can lose attraction for the material sniff. We all have a bit of a material sniff, probably. That's nice. Like a doggy, huh? Doggies have good sniffers, don't they? Especially in Australia, you really understand that when you go to the airport and how strong the dog sniff is. We came into the Gold Coast, when was it, last year, Rasika? Last year? I had no idea. In my bead bag, someone had given me a garland in Malaysia, wherever we came from. And one or two little tiny shreds of the marigold had fallen into my bead bag without my knowledge. We got taken apart in Gold Coast Airport. That dog got us. He came straight up there, and he sat up there like this, proud as the Lord, sat there. And the Inland Customs guy was like fired up, Hey, what have they got here then? And looked in there, what is this? He found 2 petals. So if ever you come into one, be careful, you have to put any flower petals in your bag. And now, I've got some in there right now. And all their bags taken apart, you can't do. I begged innocence and they let me off, but they really gave me a hard time, Everything, check, what's this, what's that, what's this, what's that. Couldn't believe it. Material life, you got that sniff, you get really entangled. We have a sniff, these things. We have a sniff of the holy name to become attracted. Association of devotees is so important. So important. If we're not attracted, what can we do? What do you expect from others? Which is a ritual. It's a ritual. I love this word spiritual. Spiritual. If you take off S-P-I, what do you get? Ritual. And you can translate SPI in different ways. I translate Srila Prabhupada's instructions with my statement. It's, we're here for not rituals, we're here for spiritual. And Srila Prabhupada has given us this opportunity to transform everything. We'll finish the purport. This brings freedom from all sorts of fear. This purport is too big. It's why Bhaktisiddhanta is doing nothing but you can imagine a purport like this. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj would lecture for months sometimes on one purport. Every word, every sentence, every word is so full of there's no end, depth, expansion. This brings freedom from all sorts of fear. First canto, first chapter, there's that verse there. How the holy name is feared by fear personified. The Bhagavatam starts with this whole principle, the very questions of the sages of Naimisharanya. Munayosa Prishtoham. Munayosa Prishtoham. Bhavir Lokamangam. Yatpita Krishna Sampashno Yanatma Sita Sita Goswami glorifies the prayer, the questions of the sages of Naimisharanya. He glorifies them. Why? Because they're related to the personality of Godhead, and therefore are welfare. They're really welfare for the whole world, for all people. Relevant. They're relevant. These questions are relevant. Just like Parikshit's questions in the previous chapter. What should be What shall man be thinking of at the time of death? What is our duty at the time of death? So this chapter is now just entering into this, answering this profound and this important question, which I guess people wonder about. Maybe not be serious about asking, but they wonder what's happening after death. And immediately Parikshit Maharaj asks this question. Sukadeva Goswami immediately gets into answering this question. And here's the secret. Sukadeva Goswami also captures this. Yadana jasana yuktaka. Does not salvation what? In the second chapter of the first canto. Therefore, with one pointed attention, tasmat ekena manasa bhagavan sattvatam prati shrotavya kititavyascha dhyaya pujascha nityaya, almost the same as this one. Therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead, who is praised in songs. And this is the method of cutting. Yadani jasana karma glantina bandhana chindanti kovita. That's just coding good. The method of cutting that knot of material attachment. Cut by remembering personality of God. It's cut by Krishna. Krishna cuts the knot when we remember him. We tie the knot, right? As Prabhupada mentioned here, with a gang of relatives. We tie the knot. And then we expand it with so many ways. That's a natural way of going about it. That's not understood. And the mature devotees, they don't condemn that in of itself, but they help us to direct that towards Krishna in a powerful way. Sometimes we dive in the deep end into, boom, boom, boom. But people with no understanding. We had a little program the other day, and I said to the guests who were there, many of them, it was the first time ever contacting the Hare Krishna, basically, I will be your interpreter. They will say, this is prasadam. We're now going to serve prasadam. And so I wonder, I said, what about the Vana ashram system and this and that is going on there? All sorts of things. It's like the people in general, these are not on their vocabulary. They're not quite ready to, it's like talking a foreign language to people. You give a lecture and everyone's English speaking, you're speaking German. I don't think it would digest very easily unless you speak German. It's like that. You have to kind of know people's language a little bit and be able to present the subject matter in their language, as Srila Prabhupada did. Of course, when we mature a little bit, then most of you expected to learn a little bit more of the language. But in the beginning, you don't know the language. Especially, I remember seeing one devotee in Spain, a brahmachari, he produced this joke book about brahmachari life. So many funny jokes. You ever see that? I don't know, really far out. I mean, it really was. It's good to laugh at ourselves sometimes. It really loosens us up a little bit. We get too serious sometimes. It's good to laugh about it. I remember, that was one of the most profound things Bhagavan ever said to me. He said, Janananda, you have to learn to laugh at yourself. Sometimes, not always. So, anyway, one of the jokes in this book was really to the right on the, hit the nail on the head. There was, Harinam Sankirtan was going on, and not so much maybe now, but those days, many people would gather around, fascinated. What is this? These crazy people, they just got out of jail. What are they? Are they on drugs? What is this? Some kind of display, fancy dress. What is going on here? And many people gather around for one reason or another. And so in this cartoon, they showed it was, and we used to stop, and they still do if there's a group gathered around, and one devotee starts speaking to the audience. One devotee, gives a talk. So this devotee giving a talk, and he's going straight in the deep end. You should understand, this is a society of cats and dogs. What's going on? And all of a sudden, the next one is all these cats and dogs appear, and all the humans go away. And all the cats and dogs are sitting there with their tails wagging. Society of cats and dogs. Very graphic. Something which people can catch and relate to, you know. Here, catch this. And you throw a 50-foot wide rock at people or something. They're going to get crushed, they're not going to catch it. Something they can take, you know, like that. And everybody, we were discussing the other day, everybody is a devotee. Everybody has a place, like somewhere they can connect to Krishna consciousness. And the whole purpose of Prabhupada, of my understanding, establishing Brahminical culture is that the Brahminical culture is able to connect everyone with Krishna. Even if they're not able to follow Brahminical principles, they can still be devotees and connect to Krishna in some way or another. This is the universal, all-pervasive Sankirtan movement, the house for the whole world to live in. The process, this brings freedom. This brings freedom. We get free. Imperceptibly we get free from the cause of suffering. The cause of suffering is we've got a sniff for the material world. So when we get a sniff for Krishna, it's the beginning of the cause of our release. I remember one devotee in London. His name was Bhakti Pramod. I don't think you ever met him, by the way. He was 55 years old when he came in contact with the devotees. Now that was very rare in 1971. Very rare. For a 55-year-old person, you're too old, mate. That was the mood, huh? Practically. You're beyond it. Many of us almost thought like that. But this man, and his wife was the same, 55 years old. And he worked in a bank in London. You will read about it if you read in the database, if he mentions something. He worked in a bank. Robert had conversations with him. He worked in a bank in London. And he also, on Sunday, he had a little store in Portobello Road Market, which in those days was like, you know, a bit of an alternate place in London. And it was a Sunday market. So every Sunday, thousands and thousands of people would come. He had a little veggie stall, fruit and veggie stall. And the devotees would go, actually just before I joined, he changed his mind, but just before I joined, the devotees would go every week on Harinam in Portobello Road. And we did when I joined too, but he wasn't there then. So they would go every week in Portobello Road on Harinam. And this man, I can't remember his name before, but this man hated the devotees. He hated them. He would curse them every time they came near him. And if they got too close, he would hurl rotten tomatoes at them. Honestly. He was so aggressive. Could have been more aggressive, but he would just like that. He would do that. I used to go every morning to the market, and people would throw rotten things at me. And we were trying to beg some food. They would throw things at us. It was the way things were. You can't do that now, maybe, but in those days you could. And so, you know, the devotees would try to avoid him, and sometimes he'd go out of his way to find them, to throw his rotten eggs, not rotten eggs, but rotten tomatoes and rotten things at them. Get out of here, you're worshipping the devil. He was a Christian. You're worshipping the devil. These people are antichrist, this, that, shut his head off. One day his wife was there. His wife was a very sort of gentle lady. And then she had the shock of her life when she saw him do this. And I don't care who they are, you cannot do this. This is not proper, we're Christians, you can't do this. She kind of, he was a henpecked, he was a bit henpecked, so, yeah, all right then. And next week, I want you to apologize to them. What? Yes. No. And eventually he did. He apologized. And the devotees were so kind to him. No worries, no, it's perfectly all right, you know, don't worry about it, everything. He thought they would be angry or something. But they weren't. And his wife was shocked. What are you talking about? They're worshipping the devil, they're behaving better than you are. She kind of preached to him, you know. And after a while, the devotees would come in every week. He was kind of gentle, he stopped it, you know. And they would come up and they would bring him some cake or something or another. And his heart melted. It melted slowly. And after a few months, he was giving them tomatoes. Not throwing them. He would give them a box of good tomatoes, not rotten ones. And apples or whatever it was on the stall. And after a while, his wife would sometimes be there. They invited him to the temple, and he came. And after we got initiated together on Trafalgar Square, actually, amazing. Started with throwing bananas. But that connection and the reciprocation of the devotees, you see. No one is excluded from Lord Chaitanya's movement. This movement is universal. But if we're excluding, that's another thing. If we're still exclusive. Inclusive. Prabhupada was inclusive. You can all read the Lilamrita, what it was like in the early years, early moments, early days. How inclusive Prabhupada is. He was trying to train persons who could also be inclusive and not exclusive, keeping people away just because they can't come up to the mark. But encourage them like little children to grow up. Grow up. Everyone has their part to play. Everyone has something which can connect with Krishna. Take broad-mindedness. Brahman is meant to be broad-minded. The process, let me finish that now. The Lord is the super soul present in every heart of all living entities. And thus by the above hearing and glorifying process, the Lord invites the association of all in His creation. Everyone is invited. They're all His children. They're all parts of preaching. In a higher sense, is understood that the pure devotees is out of service to Radharani. Compassion, you could say, in one sense, because her desire is to increase the pleasure of Krishna. When she sees conditioned souls separated from Krishna, not engaged in bringing Krishna pleasure, she feels compassion. And the pure devotees of the Lord imbibe that same compassion in following the footsteps of the devotees and the servants, etc. But they feel that compassion to try to reconnect others to Krishna, to bring pleasure to Krishna. That's the compassion to Radharani, that she's feeling sad because Krishna could be more happy if the living entities, conditioned souls were connected, serving Krishna for His pleasure. So this is preaching, to increase the pleasure of the deities, to increase the pleasure of Krishna, by somehow or other thinking how to spread Krishna consciousness, how to engage others in Krishna's service, how to encourage them to get closer to Krishna. Preaching. It's not exclusive, it's all inclusive. This process of hearing about and glorifying the Lord is applicable for everyone, whoever he may be, and it will lead one to the ultimate success in everything in which one may be engaged by providence. We're all engaged by providence, by the will of the Lord. There are many classes of human beings: fruitive workers, empiric philosophers, mystic yogis, and ultimately unalloyed devotees. For all of them, one and the same process is applicable for achieving the desired success. Everyone wants to be free from all kinds of fear, and everyone wants the fullest extent of happiness in life. The perfect process for achieving this here and now is recommended in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is uttered by such a great authority as Srila Shukadeva Goswami. By hearing about and glorifying the Lord, all a person's activities become molded into spiritual activities, and thus all conceptions of material miseries become completely vanquished. Somehow or another, Prabhupada said, get them to chant. Somehow or another. Beginning. And Prabhupada describes even in the very beginning, Krishna takes a personal hand in that person's life. Even if they just done one little thing like throw a rotten tomato at the devotee. It's indirect. But it's somehow or another connected. There's some attraction there. And most people have something. I remember one time reading about two young people studying. I come from a town in England called Swindon. And so one day I just thought, let me see if there's any reference in the database to Swindon. So I looked up Swindon. And there was one reference, lo and behold, to Swindon. I was a little surprised, but I couldn't imagine why. It's an insignificant So I looked in there, and the reference was a little article that two young people had written. They were not initiated when they were in Swindon. But they wrote an article about their experience in Swindon, and it appeared in the ISKCON Communications Journal, it was called. And this little article described when they were studying in Swindon College. They were studying, they were not initiated, they were just friends of Hare Krishna at that time. There were no devotees in Swindon per se, but they'd been to the temple maybe in Soho or somewhere, and they were studying in Swindon. They had a little interest in Krishna consciousness. Later on they became serious, but at that time they were just a little interested. So they were studying a course, husband and wife, boyfriend and girlfriend, whatever they were. They were studying a course on advertising. And the course was different, how to become expert in the world of advertising. So the seminar, which was being presented or whatever, the facilitator was showing various forms of expert advertising, clothing, how to advertise, and different billboards, and colors and sounds, and this and that. And he was showing different examples on the screen. There's some screen there showing different slides of different expert advertising in high streets in England, and how it was capturing people's attention. And then suddenly, the next one that came on was a little film, and he showed films of all of them. But this one showed a little film. He said, "Now watch this one." And who was on the high street? None other than Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Coming down the high street with the Hares. And he said, "Now look at this one." And he showed it, and he showed the whole party. They're all dancing nicely, all dressed nicely, smiling, playing instruments, singing, hands up in the air or playing instruments. And he said, "Now look at this. Now, he said, watch." And he took the camera off the devotees to the people on the street. And every single person on that film was looking. All different expressions. All different expressions. But everyone was watching. And he said, "This is an example of expert advertising." They have got everything. Colors, sounds, movements, music, originality, everything. All the expert facets of advertising are right here and in this example. They were shocked. They didn't say anything because no one knew they had anything to do with Hare Krishna. But they wrote this little article. It's quite interesting. We don't know what the effect of walking out, even dressed as in a dhoti or a sari with tilak, you don't know what the effect is. Thousands of people see it, and only Buddhists. But even if they think Buddhist, there's somehow some connection in there. Oh, it's the Hares again, oh God. And in Australia we get a lot, "Where have you Hares been?" we hear all the time. Where have you Hares been? We go to the same place, same time, every week. So those people know, but other places they never see us. They never see us. Does everybody become free of fear? Everyone wants the fullest happiness, extent of happiness in life. They don't know where to find it. Try to avoid fear, but it's an illusion by taking the intoxication of material sense enjoyment. The happiness is so shallow, and it turns into fear and distress. Not interested in this pursuit of trying to get squeezing happiness. We try for lifetime after lifetime, even as a vegetable, we're trying to get happiness out of being a vegetable. Don't know what type of happiness vegetables get. But something is there. We could go on that we actually do know something, but time is not there. Trying to find happiness and relief from fear. Pursuit, constant struggle, as Bhagavad Prabhupada was waking me up this morning. This material means struggle, constant struggle. Constant struggle. As long as we're in contact. To get out of this world is a struggle. To stay in this world is a struggle. To fulfill our desires is a struggle. Everything's a struggle. To become Krishna conscious when we're somewhat conditioned is a struggle. Nothing wrong with struggling, but struggle for Krishna is happy struggle. It's It's a fun struggle. Challenging maybe, but it's fun, and we do it for Christians. For other people, for themselves, everything is lost in the oblivion of time. Everything's taken away. Even though we've got a lovely family, a lovely house, a lovely job, maybe other people may say, they don't know what's going on inside. Many times the person seems to have a lovely car, a lovely girlfriend, a lovely job, a lovely this, and they're depressed. Don't know what's happening. Maybe, of course, their partner, whatever. But it's the material world. Nothing belongs to us. Everything is a dream. And as long as you're in a dream, it's out of our control. We're just going from one dream to the next, experiencing whatever happens to come along in the dream. And hoping I get a better day. My dream's better than your dream. Hey, I've got a much better dream than you have. Ha ha ha. Oh no, I wish I could have a dream like he's got. Along comes someone else and ruins their dream. All the time it happens. Because we're not meant to be in this dream. We're meant to be in Krishna's dream, if you want to call it that, in the spiritual realm. In loving exchanges with Krishna. And this can be awoken by hearing and chanting. So that goes along with everything else that we do, service, by serving the devotees in a little way, a little bit of service to those great devotees. That will awaken a little bit of an attraction, eventually, to hearing and chanting about Krishna. And that will free us then from the taste for material life, if we become attracted to hearing and chanting about Krishna. The perfect process for achieving this here and now is recommended in Srimad Bhagavatam, which is uttered by such a great authority as Srila Shukadeva Goswami. By hearing about and glorifying the Lord, all a person's activities become molded into spiritual activities. And thus all conceptions of material misery become completely vanquished. Because one becomes free, it's interesting, the nectar devotion, Kleshagni, Shubhada, the first two principles, the first two characteristics of pure devotional service. And it's not so much the material perspective shows that we just want to get free of the reactions of our work, right? From the material point of view, please don't punish me, God help me. I'm going to carry on sinning, but please don't punish me. I'm asking you can free me. Okay, there's something that's there, no doubt. But it's still within the material framework, as Baba said here, good and bad. We've got to get free of both. We don't hear many people saying, please release me from the reaction of my good activities. You hear people say that very often? Give me those reactions more and more, but don't give me the bad ones. Okay? You got it. But both. They're both entangling and illusory. God ultimately doesn't want us to become entangled and illusory. So, in the nectar devotion, we see the aim there, Kleshagni, to become free of sinful reactions, to become free of the very cause of our engaging or indulging in activities. Sin means separate from Krishna. It's not just a defined activity within the realm of the material world, but on a higher level, or say from the spiritual perspective, it means any activity which is separately performed separately from the interests of Krishna. Baba said the original sin is to consider I am this body and this is mine. So everything evolves from that original misunderstanding. So in the next, we see that Prabhupada also, Sridhar Swami indicates that 10th canto Bhagavatam, the Lord is acting in such a way, and He gives His devotees, it appears to be a karmic reaction. We suffer this, that, the other. We get in anxiety, sometimes depressed, so many things. Sometimes we get angry, so many things. And of course, not to say that that should be left as it is, but the point of it all is that Krishna is taking charge. He's in charge. He's actually arranging situations to help us to get free of the very cause of fear, the very cause of suffering in this world, or being separate from Krishna. By placing us or arranging various situations just suitable to break our very attachment to the cause of our engaging in illusory activities, which causes reactions, which causes us to suffer and have experienced fear and so many other unwanted emotions.
due to this desire to try to exploit the material energy, or to see it separately from Krishna. So these beautiful verses spoken by Shukadeva Goswami are just so powerful, and if we can just remember and apply them in our lives, then the disease can be cured at the root. Not just cut down on the surface, but at the very root. Remove the root. You can't expect everyone's going to remove the root, but even if they just come in contact, then the process has begun. It's a matter of time. Matter of time. And when we were in Africa, Brahmananda Swami, that time, told me that Prabhupada had told him in Africa, because at that time, and it's developed now, but at that time, nobody, many African people were joining the camp, many, but none were staying. And they would leave after a while. As soon as they found out how to steal something without getting caught, they would leave. Everything, no matter what it was, cars, vans. Fortunately, the days didn't quite get stolen. They tried, but they didn't make it. But everything and anything that had any value, off they went. And he said, a waste of time, he said, Prabhupada. We're wasting our time. And Prabhupada, no. People can't take on, they can't capture it. And Prabhupada said, this is a mercy mission. He said, don't expect to see any devotees in this lifetime. That's what he told me. I don't know if Prabhupada said it to him, but that's what he told me. Don't expect to see any devotees in this lifetime. He said, we're here to plant the seeds. Pretty broad-minded. Plant the seeds. They will grow, if not this life, the next life. We now see that many of those seeds are growing in Africa and everywhere. But even if we just plant that seed in people's hearts, even if they go off and do something materially sinful and have to suffer, but that seed of pure devotion will never be lost. Plant the seeds. And of course, there's much more to be said in cultivating. But at least the plant has to be there. There's no cultivation if the seed's not there. You can make the land as nice as you like, but if there's no seed, there's nothing to cultivate. Nothing will grow. At least the seed has to be there, then we can talk about it. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Now comments or questions, please. Yes, Prabhu. What is your, I forgot your name.
Raj Premadas.
Ah, what a wonderful name, Raj Prem.
Just thinking about this concept of vanquishing one's relatives into oblivion. So how does one define relatives, and how does one define vanquishing? So is that
Whatever is related to you. Whatever all those attachments you have. And the object of that attachment, no matter what it is, right, is lost, isn't it? At the time of death, what can you take with you? Again, time to tell some very graphic, illustrated stories, but we won't. But I think it's a logical thing that we can't take anything with us when we go, can we? Objects of our attachment, our relatives, our properties, our animals, our bank balances, our name and fame, whatever is related to you, what you think is yours or related to you, you lose it, right? You don't lose the attachment goes with you, the desire goes with you. But that band of relatives is referring to our external, whatever we think is mine. Me and mine, the mind, all taken away by death, time, taken away by time. The desire is there, then you have to start again, developing another band of relatives in the next life, whether it's a vegetable. They also have their band of relatives. We heard about that the other day. They do. They have a band of relatives. I didn't know that, but we were a little farm and they were telling us about how different vegetables have relationships with other vegetables. It's a known fact amongst traditional farmers. They're their relatives too. I don't know if they cry when the other vegetables dug out the garden or not, I'm not sure. Maybe some emotion, I don't know. But certainly in human life, no, you don't expect other species to have much to do with all of this. They're just in darkness. But human life is supposed to realize this, You're stupid. Spending our whole life, working hard, probably say like sand castles on the beach. You see children, young boys particularly,
They like to make sandcastles. I don't know if they still do. We used to do that. We used to make sandcastles on the beach, and they're trying to stop the tide sweeping them away. Right? Any of you ever did that? We used to love doing that. But the tide would always get them. You couldn't stop it, you know? You would just sweep it all away, and sometimes we'd cry, and couldn't do anything about it. You can't stop the cycle of time. And the chakra takes everything away. In due course of time, everything we have, or we think we have, is taken away. Days and nights, the rising and setting just takes everything away, except for one. You understand that everything's meant to be used in Krishna's service. Nothing's yours. Nothing can be. If you don't have anything, what can you lose? We're all so worried about losing our, about what's inside us. It's very hard to reveal it sometimes because we're afraid of the reaction. Huh? What the other person will say or do with what it does, especially nowadays. You've got to get released, freed of all these knots, all these shackles around our hearts, keeping us bound up with fear for various times. Otherwise, we have to have another crack at it, another lifetime. In this lifetime, human life, we're meant to try to wind it up. But as long as we're attached to all these, and not just the gross ones, the subtle ones, all the various attachments in our heart, they go with us. But for a devotee, we have to be free of that too. Attachment to relatives, if we're engaged in Krishna service, can't be there, not separately. Inside of that is we're not afraid of loss. We're not afraid of being, criticized or whatever, or being shown up, revealed. The truth has been revealed. Good. At last. We can be free. Anything else? Yes. You're together, aren't you? To a better half? What is your name? Sneha Priya? Wow.
About 4 or 5 years ago, he was in Down, we were talking about Prabhupada told you a couple of times how if you pay one obeisances to Krishna properly, just down it, don't take it back to God. Can you tell that again?
Yeah.
I want to rehear that.
My good service, I guess others may also like to hear it, I hope so. Well, one time I had written that little book, Prabhupada in Malaysia. So the main contribution I wrote was Amoga Prabhu. Many of you know Amoga. He's living up on the Gold Coast. Prabhupada disciple. He was there in Prabhupada when Prabhupada was in Malaysia. So he was the only one who kept a diary. Nobody else kept a diary who was there. So from his diary, most of the facts were presented. So, and one of them was when he was in Penang with Srila Prabhupada. They were in the car. Amoga was in the back, Prabhupada was in the front. And Prabhupada was sitting there. And Amoga was in the back, and he went like this. Namo Om Vishnu Budaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tima. He offered his obeisances as best he could from the back seat. Very clearly, the name Srila Prabhupada pronounced. And Prabhupada, I don't know if he turned around, I can't remember. He said, if you offer your obeisances properly, just by offering one's obeisances properly, you can go back to God. But what does that mean? Offering obeisances properly is not just a mechanical, eloquent Sanskrit, but just perfect Sanskrit in a very kind of like melodious way or something. So sweetly said, I hope everyone can hear me. How nicely I'm offering my obeisances. Perfectly with both of my hands, perfectly on the floor, and all my limbs, as I'm in a male body, touching the floor, and falling asleep while waking up while I do it, etc. I hope everybody notices it. I better say it louder next time around, so they do. The attitude is the obeisance, the heart. How much we actually give in our heart. Hare Krishna. It's true, any act of devotional service is done really at a right attitude, eligible to go back to God. The whole process of devotional service is attitudinal transformation. And if it's already on that attitudinal transform platform, there's no need to do anything. There's no need of practice, there's no need of anything. For the sake of others, what they do. The transcendentalist Krishna said doesn't need to do these things, but for the sake of others, they still do. To show us how to do things so that we can gradually develop Krishna consciousness, gradually Krishna, which is step by step, that we can progress. So the pure devotees teach us how we can take where we are now, what we need to do where we are now, to progress to the next step. They don't tell us what to do to go to the top step immediately. They may indicate what it is, but they give us the process so we can go to the next step. Offering obeisances mechanically is part of that next step. So offering it properly at that stage means to do it the way the pure devotees guide us, or the Shastra guides us. And that means that basically speaking, yes, we're now moving towards Godhead, even if our attitude is not pure. By accepting the directive given by the pure devotees, then gradually, that means we've got a good attitude at that stage. Will gradually become purer and purer and purer until it becomes spontaneous, natural outpouring of love for Krishna. That takes time. Anything else? You can read it if you want to find it. I haven't read it for years on it, so I can't remember word for word. It's in that little book Prabhupada in Malaysia. Anything else?
Maharaj, you mentioned a few times about struggling.
What?
Struggling.
Struggling, well, Tyler Schreiber woke me up this morning, I was thinking I was okay.
So I was just wondering, like, if we don't, even in devotional service, if we're not feeling some kind of struggle, does that mean we're not properly engaged or we're not doing enough?
Good question. Are we not doing enough?
What was the question?
The question was, if we're trying to be devotee or trying to engage in devotional service, if we're not feeling we're struggling, what was the other word?
Yeah, if we're not feeling some struggle, does that
If
mean...
we're not feeling some struggle, does that mean we're not doing enough, or we're not properly engaged, or whatever it is? You could say yes and no. Yes, we should think like that. Of course, it may be that, you are fully engaged, and rightly engaged, and it doesn't feel like a struggle. It could be. Although it is a struggle to spread Krishna consciousness. So then you ask yourself, what more can I do? What more can I do? Sometimes when we're in a lull like that, we have to be careful. Yes, Bhagavad.
There's a very illustrative story about this. In 1976, the last time Srila Prabhupada visited Bombay, he was very ill. And still he gave a darshan. And just like you were saying about making a big show of obeisances, everybody was sitting like this, and Prabhupada was propped against a big bolster, barely moving. And this gentleman stands up and steps into the front and goes, "Oh, Swamiji, give me your blessings." And he's like this up in front of everybody. Prabhupada just fixed him with a stare and looked at him for quite a long time. And the man was starting to get a little fidgety. Prabhupada wasn't speaking, he was just looking at him. So anyway, then Prabhupada started to talk and he said, "Such a big society I have there. It's an international society all over the world. And so many problems every day, so many problems coming on my head." He tapped his head like this. He said, "You don't know the headache I have." And he stopped talking again for quite a few seconds, and the man's still standing there. And everybody was getting quite embarrassed. But then he said to the man, "So if you want my blessings, you take some of my headache."
Very well.
So we can become complacent, think, oh, I'm doing fine. But there's 5 million people all around us coming to help. But what are we doing about that?
It's the nature of a Vaishnava, isn't it? Paraduka. Even if he has no direct reason to be an anxiety of a struggle, when he sees 8 billion people, humans, bodies, and countless other animals, if we're actually a servant of a servant, if we're actually trying to serve the servants of the servant, we should do everything we can to help, take on that responsibility of taking that road. Whatever, it may be little, as the spider is pushing grains of sand and Hanuman mountains. Whatever it is, take it on. And say, what's the use? I can't do anything. What's the use for 8 billion people in this world? What can I do? Even one. You can say, well, you only save one person, but is that not better than 9%? They're drowning. Do what we can to help connect others to Krishna. Do what we can to take that responsibility of spreading Krishna consciousness. We have sometimes a tendency to become lazy in that regard. It was very prominent at certain stages I've seen in a few years of being in this movement. That sometimes it's, oh, that's not my responsibility, that's theirs. I don't need to worry. It's all on our shoulders. But for human life is a life of responsibility. God would want us to become responsible, at least those taking on this privilege of having an opportunity to represent Srila Prabhupada in sharing Krishna consciousness. And it may be a struggle. It may be sometimes suffering. When we do it in that vein, in that mood, it is a struggle, but you don't have to suffer for that struggle as such. Struggle is a struggle of enlightenment, joy. Pleasure to see, for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada and Krishna, we're willing to do this, or we're trying to do this. We'll take on whatever we can, really being realistic, not trying to imitate. Taking responsibility. Don't be lazy. Little things, for instance. Oh, it's not my job to clean. That's someone else's job. They get paid for it. And we walk past the garbage in the town. That means we're walking past Krishna in the form of what pleases him. Pick it up, bin it. Whatever. Tidy it up. Many examples can be given. Be responsible. This is all little things to help us to become Krishna conscious and to help others to become Krishna conscious. Please Krishna. Even in our homes, the same principle can be. It's Krishna's home. This illusion of thinking this is my home. We use the term, actually, for other people, communication. But ultimately it belongs to Krishna. We'll try to keep your home in a way that Krishna will be pleased. Our hearts, everything, for Krishna. He's being responsible. Don't just think someone else is going to do it for me. The Prabhupada has given us the many means, it's up to us what we do it. Take it. Prabhupada one time said that to Vishnu Jan Swami, wasn't it? Why, he was thinking he had got mercy. The Prabhupada said the mercy is there for everyone. It's just whether you take it. To take it. The greatest service is to take this responsibility to spread this message of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna consciousness, all over the world in a way which is digestible. Hare Krishna. So yes, if you're feeling a struggling, as long as it's, again, a little common sense. When imitation comes in, when some other motivation is involved, sometimes we have to be a little careful because we may over-endeavor, we may lose our enthusiasm. So we need the association of devotees, more mature devotees, to help us to understand what is it. Struggle, are we struggling for the right reason? Are we going in the right direction? Or are we trying to do something which we're not yet eligible for? and thus losing our enthusiasm. There's a balance has to be there, and that's where the Sangha of devotees comes in to help us. But everyone can take something. Everyone can take some responsibility. And as we move forward, Krishna will give, when the time is right, more opportunities, more responsibilities, opportunities, and various things. Anything else?
The question is, like for example, when Prabhupada was there, everybody wanted to please Prabhupada, and
Everybody wants to
wanted to please Prabhupada.
please it.
And like when senior devotees are visiting, everybody wants to serve them. But then when we try to do devotional service in the circle of peers, in the circle of peers with equals, then
In search of?
in the circle of equals, like even like let's say for book distribution, you want to have the biggest, like you want to distribute the most number of books rather than trying to help someone connect to someone. So how do we get out of this mentality of I want to please Krishna rather than I can be of help to someone?
Competition, like a competitive spirit.
Yes.
There's healthy and unhealthy competitive spirits. Hearing is important. When we're engaged in this regards, in Sankirtan or any service, cooking, anything, it could be anything. But we have to also have a little bit of understanding, a little bit of hearing is required, a little bit. Understanding of what's really the point. Otherwise this tendency of seeing myself as the doer comes in. Now Krishna is very kind, he's always kind. Even if we have that tendency of seeing oneself as the doer, you may get it for a while, but then you'll lose it. Krishna will take it away. And oftentimes you'll see that when you actually get the result, you are humiliated. You're not humiliated in the negative sense, in the positive sense, you're humbled. You feel almost ashamed that you felt like that or that happened in the association with devotees. You'll become purified of that tendency if we're open to it. If we're determined, however, not to be changed, you must be determined you want change, otherwise you wouldn't ask the question. So you hear in the association of devotees. You're open to correction in the association of devotees. You're open to Krishna's kindness of removing that. Let's say maybe not such a pure motivation. It's naturally going to be there in the beginning. It's like children. We probably almost encourage them in some cases. But you also encourage them to become purified of the, let's say, if there's any negative attitude involved in it. And we should be happy when we see others do better. If we're not happy when we see others doing better, then that's a sign that, maybe we've got a bit of homework to do. No problem. Homework's not so bad. It's a good opportunity to advance. But we inquire then specifics. What to do? By hearing the association of devotees, by associating with devotees with a better attitude, pure, what we consider pure attitude, hearing from them, taking their guidance, etc., etc. And being desiring and praying to the Lord, please remove. But we were just reading a couple of days ago, King Priyavata was really, really worried about Brahma, and he convinced him to take up management of the universe. Really worried he's going to become overcome with pride, with big position, everything like this and that pride. We're very, very, very worried about that happening. And he was praying that he was not going to be overcome, because his desires were fulfilled. Now the Muni, Brahma, and Brahma, they all blessed him that he wouldn't be overcome. So like that, it's easy to become overcome, even though we haven't done anything really, but it appears a lot in our little tiny worlds. Fame amongst the infamous. We get very proud, easily. That's why we're here. So to put Krishna in the center, for always remembering, this is Krishna, I'm not the doer, this is for Prabhupada, Prabhupada's mercy. These books are non-different than Krishna. It's my good fortune to be an instrument for these books to be distributed. I'm just praying to Krishna, please engage me as your instrument instead of I want to do more books, please make me do more books. So I'm top and I get the maha. Remember Punyatana Prabhu? Yeah. Punyatana in the early years, in the 70s, he was the top book distributor in England, sometimes in the world. And he was so, he had the gift of the gad in talking to people. He was so expert, he could talk to anybody and convince them that way. Such a good talker, Scotsman. So, but his sadhana was not very good, to say the least.
And one day Trivikram Swami was giving class, and he put his hand up. And he said, Maharaj, I don't understand it. You know, I'm not the worst sadhana in the temple. I do the most books. What's going on here? What's going on here? You're a pretty straightforward guy, you know. And Trivikram said, what would you do if you weren't doing the most books? He kind of, I'd leave. I'd leave, he said. I wouldn't stay. Why? Because I wouldn't get the money. He was really very honest, straightforward, you know, really flat. I mean, maybe he was going overboard, but that's what he answered. Trivikram said, maybe you can understand from Krishna's point of view why he lets you do the most books. Otherwise he wouldn't stay. He wants you to stay and become purified. So Krishna was helping him like that. Even though he had funny motivation, but in the association of us, because we all, you know him now. Have you seen him? I haven't seen him for a few years. In LA, he's doing wonderful service, preaching in another world altogether in terms of celebrities and things. You know. He was a speaker. But Krishna knows what's best for us. And he knows when it's time to, something needs to be adjusted. And he'll tell you, and if we listen, we'll be able to adjust. If we don't listen, if we fight against it, that's another thing. We often fight against it. Why is this happening to me? I'm never going to do this again. Like children. Like children. It takes a while before they wake up. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Bhagavatam ki jai. Jai Mandi. Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Bhagavata Shri Prabhu ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for your association, your kindness of giving that association today, and allowing me to sit here and share some things. Hare Krishna.